Hi, this is Jana Whitley, author of the My Little Pony Crochet pattern book, and this is the last video in the series where I will be showing you how to make the Cutie mark, which is the little mark that's on the hind end of the figure. So here's our figure so far. In the previous video I showed you how to do the tail, and so here's where we're going to be making the cutie mark, and it's going to be, we're going to embroider it onto felt, and then we're going to cut around the felt and then stitch it on here like an applique. Alright, so what you'll need to do is to trace this cutie mark. You'll see along here, this is these little stars are the Twilight Sparkle cutie mark. And also, if you look in the back of the book, there's templates for the main 6. However, this one is too large for her backside. So if you want, you can, if you have a copier or scanner, you can reduce this 50%. Or this, what might be easier is this is the same size. This picture in the book is the same size as the doll. So this you can trace right over that cutie mark. So I've got a little piece of tracing, well, tissue paper that's the same size as the felt that comes in the kit. This is the kind of tissue paper that you would put into like a gift bag. You could also use like parchment paper from like your baking, or if you have art tracing paper. So I'm going to put this here, and let's see, that's like so. And I'm going to grab a ballpoint pen. And we're just going to make little the little stars first. And looks like there's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little white stars. And then I'm going to make the little, there's these little white marks behind. Let's see. It's kind of hard to trace this. Okay, there's that. And so the center star, the one that's kind of magenta colored, it's got 6 arms on it. And then there's little kind of hash marks that come out from between the arms in white. So the center is magenta, and then you got 5 little white stars and 5 little these little, I don't know what would you call those? The little white bits that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There they are. Okay, so that's about, and then I'm gonna hold this up to my pony, see how that fits. That's pretty good. Okay. So now I'm gonna pin this onto the felt. But don't pin through the design, just pin next to the design. Okay. Now, let's see, and the instructions for this, you'll see it starts here on page 30. It talks about the equipment you'll need. Then it says, and then it refers you to page 22 to talk about the tracing. And then after you've pinned it, you're going to start the cutie mark by getting your floss. We're going to start with the dark pink floss, and we're going to get 1 strand of floss, and and the small needle. We're going to back stitch through the lines of the paper on the paper, creating the outline of the big star shape. Okay, so here's the kit floss, and this color right here is the color we're going to use. Here is the smaller of the two needles. You'll see I'm going to use the smaller one. Okay, I have to figure out how to unwrap this. I don't see the ending. It's tucked in pretty tight, I think. What I'll do is take my needle, kind of fish out the end. That looks like the end right there. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna cut this in half so it's not too long. And then I'm going to separate my strands. So take the end, pull it apart, and grab just one of these strands. And there we go. It's a little tricky to make sure to have it so that it doesn't get all twisted up. Okay, so there's one strand. And one needle. Now this needle is this kit needle. It's probably a little bit bigger than I'd hoped. So I hope it works well. I actually, when I made the models, I used a much smaller needle. It was probably about half that size. And quite thin. So we'll see how this one goes. Oof. Yeah, that is really thick. Okay, so I'm just going to come up. I'll just leave about 2 inches in the back and hold it there. And I'm going to take a stitch like that, and then I'll stitch up here, and then make a back stitch, come back here, okay, so you can see I've got these 2 stitches, and this is pretty tiny work. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, and then we come up here. So you should only have to do 1 or 2 stitches for every arm of the big pink star. So we're just creating an outline, and then later on we'll fill it in the outline with a satin stitch. Okay, so there is the outline there. So what comes next, we are going to with 2 strands of white floss, stitch through the paper and felt to create the 6 smaller stars and the accent twinkle lines around the big star. So let's get 2 strands of white floss. Okay, so here's our white floss. We're going to separate it. And we'll get 2 strands together, like so. Oops, that's 3. We need 2. Come on. There we go. Okay, if it starts to ball up like that, then go ahead and pull on the, and then if you can twist it like that, it'll help it along. Okay. Oops. Let's see, I'm gonna get my white. All right, now we're gonna come up from behind. Let's see, I'm gonna anchor this first, so I'm just gonna go through some of these stitches. And then go through the stitches again in the same direction, and then make a little half hitch there to anchor that. And I'll come up, and so each of these little stars is just gonna be 3 stitches. So like an X, and then the line through the X. Okay, we'll go to the next one. You don't have to follow your template exactly. I mean, if you kind of know the general shape of the stars, then just, you know, space them where you think they need to be. Oh, I got a little bit of tangle. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna get my needle back on the thread. Okay. Okay, so there's the 5 stars, and now we're going to take a small stitch with the white in kind of the armpit of the star arms to make the little twinkles behind the star. So there's one, and let's do one up here. And one here. Oh, I'm running out of room. This needle's a bit too fat. Okay. You know, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take my paper off because it's getting so poked through and I can tell where I need to go. So I'm just going to gently tear away this paper. You don't want to pull it too hard because it might distort your stitches. And then you can take the end of your needle and kind of pry out the little paper bits that are left behind. And also, if you have tweezers, the tweezers can be really handy for pulling out these paper bits. Or using your fingernails can help too. Now kind of folding the felt to really get in there. Make sure I get all the little bits. Okay. Alright, let me finish my little white twinkles. Okay, it looks like this star is missing one of its arms, so I'm going to go back and remedy that. Alright, and then a little twinkle there. Let's see. Okay, one more there. Okay, so can you see that? I hope it's not too out of focus. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do satin stitching to fill in that star. So first of all, I'm just going to go see how messy the left back looks. See, it's not pretty, but that's okay. We're just going to take a couple stitches to anchor the white. Okay, and then cut off about an inch there. Okay, so here we go. So you can see in the book. So what we're going to start in the middle. In the kind of the fattest part of the star, and make little parallel stitches going up, and then come back to the middle again and make parallel stitches going down. I just need to look up how many strands of yarn we're going to use for that. Let's see. Satin stitching. So that's on page 20 where it talks about satin stitching. Here's the diagram that shows how to make those little close parallel stitches. So you've got here's a heart, and there's the back stitched outline, and you're going to go just beyond the outline to make the design. But it doesn't, you know what, I think I neglected to tell you how many strands to use. So we're gonna use 2 strands of this dark pink yarn, because that's what we used for the stars. So let's separate again. Okay. All right, and I'm just gonna anchor this back here by leaving about an inch and then making an overhand knot by stitching again, making a loop, coming up through the loop. Okay, and so I'll start in the middle here. I hope this needle is small enough. We're gonna give this a try. And come not on the inside, but just on the outside of that pink stitch to make the first. That one was a little crooked. Oh, I think that's gonna be okay as long as they're all parallel. Okay. And I wonder if I should have gone with 1 strand. Okay, so, wow, okay. Okay, so looks pretty good up the top. So I'm going to come down and do the bottom part of the star. Okay. Let's see, I hope you can see that. There we go. All right, now, okay. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my scissors and so you're gonna imagine that there's a little outline around. Oh, you know what? First, let me anchor this off. Let me fasten this off. Make a little overhand knot there. And then just kind of trim the end there. Okay, very good. All right, so let me trim around this and leave about, oh, I'd say like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe almost an eighth of an inch border. You don't want to get so close that you cut the stitches or cut into the design. If you need to make it big at first and then trim off the extra, because you can always cut it smaller, but you can't cut it bigger, right? And just kind of make a rounded cookie cutter type shape around it. So, and then if you need to go back and tidy it up and just kind of smooth out the edges. Okay, so, and I'm going to trim these little extra bits so I don't want hanging out behind. Alright, so that's a good fit for her bottom. You can decide which end you like up. Alright, let's pin that on. Like so. And maybe I'll do it just a titch higher though. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to take that same needle again and we're going to get the purple thread. Now, I'm going to use the floss that came with the kit that we used for the mouth, because that's pretty close to the same color. If you've got sewing yarn, or I'm sorry, not yarn, if you've got thread that you use in a sewing machine, if you've got it the same color as this body, that's the ideal thing to use. But I'm just going to use one strand of the floss. And let me get it separated here. Okay, so here's my tiny one strand of floss. I'm going to put it through the needle and I'm going to just whip stitch around the edge of this guy. So I'm going to come up through the bottom to hide the beginning tail. And then start doing my whip stitch, catching some of the yarn on the body. And then coming up through the edge of the felt. And take your time with this because you want it to be nice small even stitches so that they don't stand out. You want them to be as invisible as possible. And pull the stitches snug. All right. Now, if you decide to not do the cutie mark, that is perfectly fine too. I think. These My Little Pony characters that are based on what's called the Cutie Mark crew, and it's a new design with the big heads. And I believe the little plastic figures that they sell, they don't actually have cutie marks on them. So if you don't want to put, if you think, oh, I don't like embroidery, I don't want to fuss with that, so, and that is fine. Also, if you say, you know what, I really don't want to whip stitch that thing on there, you could probably use tacky glue like you did with the eyes. Conversely, if you want to whip stitch the eyes on instead of using glue, if you have if you want to give this to a child and they're going to be playing a lot with it and you don't want those eyes to pop off, then by all means go ahead and stitch the eyes on. Okay. Okay, how's that looking? Not too bad. I think I tilted it where it should have, the star should have been like straight up and down. So if I was really fussed about that, I could pick out the stitches and try again, but I think I'm okay with the star tilted. Okay, so there we go. Got that on, so I'll just give a couple extra stitches to do a little overhand knot, and then hide the end back down in the body. Okay, and then trim it off. Okay, so there's the cutie mark. Now I'm going to put the wings on. I kind of left that for the last because didn't want to get in the way of the cutie mark embroidery, and I just want to check my reference photo and make sure I don't get them too far off. So they're kind of right there, I think. And what you'll want to do is you just stitch around the bottom part of the wings and leave those 3 little feathers so that they can flap around. I'm just gonna put the tail onto my bigger needle. Okay, and just anchor it onto the body with about 3 or 4 stitches. Okay, how's that looking? Pretty good. Okay, and I'm just gonna bring it through the other side to hide the end, and do the same thing with the shorter tail. Just hide it. Bring it through there. Oops, I lost it. Try that again. Okay, all right, so there's the wing. And I'm going to trim those in bits. Okay. Now just the last wing is all that's left. Now, of course, you can now in the Twilight, or I'm sorry, in the My Little Pony universe, Twilight Sparkle, she starts out without wings. She's a unicorn, but then later she like advances in her studies and she's and magically gains wings and becomes an alicorn. So, you know, you can make her without wings if that's your preference. And you know, she's still true to the character. So yeah, so last thing would be putting this little wing on the other side. And I already showed you how to do that one, so you can go ahead and do that one on your own and you'll be finished. And so there she is. And yeah, so I hope that works out for you. Leave any questions in the comment section and then I'll try to help you out. Thanks for watching.